My dad, 58, divorced my mom, 58 too, 10 years ago. She got custody of me, 24 female, because she made more money and is able to provide a stable home for me. He remarried my stepmom, female 41, 2 years ago, and she's a very nice woman. They're very much in love, and there are no hard feelings on any side of the family. At the beginning of the year, my stepmom called me to tell me that she's heartbroken because she can't have bio children. She and dad have been trying, but they couldn't conceive because she was infertile after many doctor's visits. I think she didn't want to accept that news, so she went to others to have someone tell her that the tests are wrong. While I'm close to them, I'm not comfortable with knowing that type of intimate detail. Stepmom told me she's looking into vitro, and she's always wanted a child like me. I don't consider myself special, but she wants me to be a mold for a biological child. She asked if I would consider donating my eggs to her and use dad's S to make a child with the closest DNA match to them. I don't understand her logic. Dad is obviously against it, and so is mom, but stepmom doesn't think it's wrong. This dropped on me after a week of back and forth between us. She wouldn't let it go and wants me to reconsider. I was super uncomfortable when she mentioned using my eggs and dad's S. She roped my dad's side of the family in the matter. They're religious, old beliefs, and believe in patriarchal. Dad doesn't have an heir to take the family name because they don't see me as worthy of being the head of the household. They've been bombarding me with messages and calls for my selfishness, saying I'm depriving a good woman of a chance to be a mother and denying my father's right to have an heir. Mom and dad agreed to one child. The family is accusing mom of shoving her Western independence view on me when I was a child. I've since cut contact with that side of the family and stepmom. I'm too sickened by the thought of it. Things are awkward between dad and me, so I went low contact with him. Now, I'm starting to think I'm making a big deal out of it. She's right, we're not doing anything wrong. I know I have the right to say no, but really guilty for crushing stepmom's heart. But am I overreacting by blocking stepmom too? Lay it on me. I'm built of thick skin from dad's family. I'll hurt differently from objective strangers, but I need it. Am I the a-hole? Info. Many of you mentioned the legality issue. My stepmom is from the same country as my dad. She shares similar beliefs with his family's religion. I'm not aware of a lot of the details of her plan, but she asked me to donate. I should have put in that she wants the child to have her country's citizenship, not the U.S. citizenship. She has access to IVF in her homeland, but I didn't think it would raise many comments about legality. It's why I mentioned my dad's family's patriarchal beliefs. Dad, stepmom, and his side of the family only have green cards. They have access to their country's healthcare, but she's not letting go of the possibility of me. I don't know the laws of their mother country. I was born here, and I never stepped foot in the other country. Not the a-hole. This is very, very weird. If she uses your egg and dad's S, it's just weird and a little sickening. So weird. She can use someone's eggs. She already has your dad's S. That's as close as most people get. So her reasoning is honestly insane. Fooling around with family tends to be illegal because of the genetic defects it can cause. So, not the a-hole. If you went through with this, she is going to end up with a severely disabled child. Not only is she morally wrong, but scientifically wrong as well. That baby is at a very high risk of either unviable or have a very poor quality of life. She needs to be cut off if she doesn't let it go. She's not entitled to your body, and her stupidity about the fact she's rooting for a literal inbred child is astonishing. I, 40 male, am an investment banker. I have a great job, work long hours, but also make a lot of money. In the past 15 years, I've made enough money to finally pay off my student loans, buy my own apartment, pay off my parents' mortgage, and create college funds for my nephew and niece, my brother's kids. I'm getting the paperwork in order to adopt my foster son, who has been with me for 4 years now, 14 male. He has a college fund, an emergency fund in case something happens to me, etc. He is taken care of. My sister, 36 female, has been trying to have a baby for years. She has tried IVF before and it didn't work. She and her husband drained their bank accounts trying to conceive. They decided to try and asked me for a loan of $85K for another round of IVF. I said that this is a lot of money, so I will have to think it through, and will let her know in 2 weeks. That's always my first answer whenever anyone asks for money. I have to check my finances and figure out which account to take the money from, etc. Plus, I like to sleep on my decisions regarding the bunny. After a week went by, we were all at our parents' house for dinner, and my brother and sister-in-law were still talking about their youngest still not sleeping through the night. So I joked, God, babies are so much work. Makes me glad I got my son when he was 10. My brother-in-law then said, well, we would love to take care of one, a baby, if we got the chance. Some sympathetic nods followed that, and then my sister looks at me and goes, I can't believe you will make us parents, brother, and turns to me. My mom was overjoyed. My dad made a speech about grandkids. My brother was a bit shocked because he wasn't aware of any of this. I said, "Let's talk about this later, all right?" And my sister burst into tears, saying, "Do you mean you won't give me the money for the baby?" I asked her to drop it, please, and we'll talk later. Brother-in-law said he knew I'd bail on them, and my mom started crying too. I tried to tell my sister that we'll talk in private, but she said, "You are a selfish a-hole who just can't tolerate anyone else being happy too." I said that's not true, and then brother-in-law cut me off saying, "Just because you can't have bio kids doesn't mean the rest of us shouldn't." I took my kid and we left. Later my mom called me and asked me to give them the money anyway. Sister and brother-in-law texted me to ask if I will honor the thing we talked about or not, and to just tell them and not string them along. I said I won't be giving them a dime now. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. That's a huge loan, and it's your right to refuse it. It's incredibly manipulative and, in my book, evil to put people on the spot, and also lie about them in front of others. I wouldn't do anything for them for a long time. Not the a-hole. Do not lend money. Give it or don't give it, but never lend it. It's apparent that they brought this up in front of family to pressure you into giving them money, and that isn't okay. If you give them money now, you would almost be rewarding their treatment of you. I also don't trust that monetary figure as being the cost of IVF. I know IVF can be costly per round, but I've heard figures closer to 20K per round, not 85K. It's possible that they are asking for 85K for IVF, but plan to spend 20K on IVF and 65K on other things. If you decide to give them money, cap it at a certain amount and pay the medical provider directly. Remember, if they're successful, they'll ask for a college account next. Saying, "I'll pay 20K directly to your provider for one more round of IVF," wouldn't be unreasonable. My brother, 38 male, and sister-in-law, 43 female, moved in with me and my husband, 42 male and 45 female, 6 months ago. They were kicked out of sister-in-law's mother's house and had nowhere else to go. My brother called me in the middle of the night and begged me to let him come stay with us. I was hesitant to allow this because my brother has a track record of taking advantage of people. 8 years ago, I let him come live with us to get sober, and he ended up stealing jewelry and credit cards from my house. He has been clean now for 3 years, and after discussing it with my husband, we agreed that we have an extra room and they could stay there rent-free until they were able to get on their feet and find their own place. Last weekend, my brother and sister-in-law sat us down and said they had something to discuss with us. We thought they were going to tell us that they were moving out. Instead, my sister-in-law announced that she was going to be starting IVF so they could have a child. I told my brother that this was insane. Neither one of them have a job, and he already has 2 children that he does not support. We told them that we are not inclined to support another person, and they have 30 days to find a new place to live. I went to the courthouse on Monday and filed for a formal eviction. My entire family is furious with us. They think we should let them stay and support them. My mother in particular thinks that I am cold-hearted and insensitive. I told her that I was tired of supporting 2 grown adults, that they have not done a single thing as we agreed, get jobs, find their own place, and now they want to have a child. I told my mother that I was tired of helping my brother only to end up with egg on my face, and that they both needed to leave. My husband suggested that we offer to put them in an efficiency motel for 1 month, and I agreed. We told my brother and sister-in-law this morning, and they flipped. Sister-in-law posted all over social media that we are leaving them homeless in winter. So, am I the a-hole for evicting them? Edit. For everyone asking how they are paying for the IVF, apparently they have set up a GoFundMe, and my sister-in-law took out a credit card to specifically pay for the IVF. Not the a-hole. If they can afford IVF, then they can afford a place to live. Not the a-hole. Your family is upset that you're letting them take advantage of you, because they are afraid of being expected to queue up to be taken advantage of. It would be insane of you to continue paying their bills when they are bringing another life into the world. Would they suddenly materialize a job to pay for clothes, baby food, formula, baby furniture? Would they expect you to get a bigger place for them because they need it? I mean, leeches are gonna leech, but that doesn't mean that you have to open up your veins for the crappy life lessons they'd be teaching their kids. I, male 31, am in a stable relationship, unmarried because of taxes, with my girlfriend, female 32, and have a married brother, male 36, with 3 children, male 3, female 8, female 10. And I'm on fairly good terms with him, or used to be, and his children. I'm not completely against having kids, but usually I don't find them very cute. If anything, I'd say my current partner is the only one I could imagine having children with. Probably I would like them just because they are hers. My brother knows that I would consider having children if my girlfriend wanted to. However, she cannot get pregnant normally, and we've not decided to get IVF yet, and are not sure if we will. Both of us are very well off financially, due to being self-employed in pandemic-safe fields, having invested significant amounts into stock, crypto, and also avoiding a nice share of taxes, quitting church. We have done civil service and being unmarried, basically. The latter is kind of relevant because I know it makes us look quite greedy. My brother recently called me to talk about something important. So I knew I wasn't going to like what he wanted because otherwise he'd have told me on the phone. We met up and eventually said that since we get along, and I'm the only relative friend capable of caring for their children, he'd like me to sign off on becoming their guardian, or at least financially assisting them if something were to happen to him and his wife. I gave it a rather quick thought. I'm worried this might have come off as me just checking another project, and then told him that I didn't want to care for children, so no. We argued a bit, where I explained my reasoning. Again, probably comes off a bit selfish, mostly about my personal freedom and finances. At this point, he asked if I would at least talk it out with my girlfriend. She'd probably give it more thought than I did. And I said I would, since I had already decided. Finally, and by this point I was really out of patience, he also wanted to know what I think should happen. Example, if they died, what would become of the kids? I then just said, I fail to see how that's my issue to deal with, and left. I know this probably hurt my brother, his wife, and potentially the kids if he tells them. But at the same time, I feel like that's a risk I had to take to get the message across. My parents have of course heard of it already, and I've had to listen to a lot of things from them and my sister-in-law's family. Selfish, narcissistic, greedy, cruel, etc., etc. And they also took issue with my decision to just block it off without telling my girlfriend. My brother and sister-in-law probably feel the same way, but I'm guessing they aren't saying anything, because they know if they insult me personally, I'll just double down. Am I the a-hole here? You definitely could have had more tact here, dude. I fail to see how this is my problem. Really? Yes, the a-hole for that. I do think you should speak to your girlfriend about this. I don't think it's a bad idea to speak to her about possibly financially contributing to the kids' welfare, as long as you don't have to take care of the kids. I assume you don't hate the kids. Yes, the a-hole. So, you really felt it necessary to estrange yourself from your entire family, on the off chance your brother and his wife both die before their kids come of age. It doesn't sound like he asked anything of you now, just a backup plan in case of a catastrophe. Granted, it is certainly your right to have your own flesh and blood thrown on the street so it doesn't inconvenience you, but it is definitely not a nice thing to do. Well, we lost my aunt in January. It wasn't totally unexpected, but it was still really hard to deal with. My aunt didn't have any kids of her own, so her nieces and nephews were her kids. She was close to all of us, and she was really like a second mom. My aunt loved her vinyl collection, and we'd listen to her records and talk about her favorite bands together for as long back as I can remember. Before she died, she told me she wanted me to take the records and the turntable, and made me promise not to sell them, which of course I said I wouldn't. I took them with me at her insistence, maybe several days before she passed. Since the funeral, I finally sat down and looked at all the records with my best friend, who's a huge vinyl lover. It turns out that some of the records in her collection are worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. It was kinda cool to find that out, but again, no big deal because I promised I wasn't gonna sell. Well, I made the mistake of telling my sister, who then told my mom, and now word has leaked out to the other nieces and nephews. My mom is telling me that it isn't fair that my aunt left me something so valuable, and that it isn't right for me to keep what she says is a small fortune to myself. The others, my aunt's two nieces and nephew, that aren't my siblings, are saying that I had no right to take the records, and that I need to return them before they get the court involved. They said that we can settle the matter out of court if I agree to take the records to an appraiser, sell them, and split the amount from the sales with them, with a portion going to everyone, and that it's what my aunt would have wanted, because she loved all the kids equally. I don't think so. She gave these to me and not to them, and they just want to sell them because they want the money. But the other thing is that these guys are my family. My mom is acting really angry, unreasonable, and calling me selfish almost every chance she gets when I talk to her and see her. I want to keep the records, but I also want to keep the peace with my family too, because even though what they want isn't right, I do still love them. Help, anyone. They are being unreasonable. Records are not worth very much at all, unless you have an unpeeled butcher cover or something. And if you did have anything that was considered very valuable, it's unlikely it's worth anything if it's been opened and used, listened to. Most people overvalue records, until they try to sell them to a store or dealer. Then they get bummed once they realize they don't have anything worth the trouble of carting it up there for sale. Unless you have $20K plus worth of vinyl, then taking you to court is just an empty threat, because you're going to pay a crap ton in legal and court fees. And even if you do have more than that, how much will actually be left after you take out the fees? On top of that, it might be different in your country, but as far as I know, you can't take someone to court over one item on a will. They would have to dispute the validity of the entire will. Like I said, this might be incorrect for your country. I feel like you really see people's true colors when it comes to inheritances. Your cousins and mother don't care about your aunt or her wishes. All they care about is making a quick buck.